Turning now to the economy, a lot of relevant news. Just going to put this up here on the screen. The CEO of Kraft, Heinz, has now said they have the worst consumer sentiment in decades, pointing out the drop in the number of consumers who are buying staples. They lowered their sales outlook and that the feeling of U.S. shoppers has fallen, quote, to a historic low. The company now expects full organic net sales to be down 3 to 3.5%, with slower growth also in emerging markets and pressure in the U.S. retail. They said that higher prices from inflation and expected headwinds from curtailed food stamp funding were creating a tough environment for U.S. shoppers, that the drop in their overall sales has led to some 17% drop in their overall stock price, compared with the 17% rise in the S&P 500. Higher prices from inflation, food stamps, funding are all creating a, quote, tough environment, they say, for shoppers. And I think that's really grim. We talked previously about the McDonald's CEO. Now, I'm not saying Heinz products and McDonald's and any of that is healthy, but it's indicative of consumer sentiment of behavior. And what he was showing is like people were skipping breakfast. And I think a lot of comments were, oh, well, if they're skipping McDonald's breakfast and eating breakfast at home, then maybe that's a good thing. But there's not actually a ton of data that even necessarily shows that because of the grocery price increase. And so the fact that staples themselves have become not only more expensive, but people are deciding not to buy them, I think is one of those like edge indicators in the grocery store to say, oh man, like things are really buying.
Yeah.
Right?
People are
like
cutting
when you
back
have to cut on ketchup and mustard. I mean, by the way, how much ketchup are people eating? How many times do people buy ketchup? I buy it every 6 months.
Oh,
but I don't
wait till
even
you
like
have
ketchup.
a toddler.
Oh,
and
really?
You're going to see how much ketchup your household can go through. Ketchup,
Well, if you never give them ketchup, then they will never know.
Disgusting because of what my son would like dip his apple slices in it and everything. I was like, oh. That killed any sort of appetite I ever had for ketchup. So our family has long cut back on ketchup because I refuse to use it. It's disgusting. Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and put C2 up on the screen because it's not just Kraft Heinz. You also have Chipotle. I actually didn't even realize this. They have this very young customer base. They've really catered to them. They've been like, there's like a whole gym bro tie-in. Here's a good way to get lots of protein for relatively inexpensive price. Easy, relatively affordable, tastes good. I personally like Chipotle. I know you're a big Chipotle fan, Saagar, but
I used to be, not anymore. At the current price, I'm no longer a consumer. It's too much.
So anyway, they say millennials and Gen Zers have helped power Chipotle sales despite rising menu prices and slowdowns at rival chains. In recent months, though, a harsher economic reality is set in. Rising student loan payments, stagnant wage growth, and rising health insurance costs have bumped burritos down younger consumers' priority list. They're just eating with us less frequently, and they're eating at home more often. The Chipotle CEO, Scott Boatwright, said in an interview. And their stock is getting trashed right now. And guess what? They're not the only ones. I mean, you have the top line of the stock market, just keeps going up, up, up. That's all because of these tech stocks. NVIDIA leading the charge, but other tech stocks that are AI enabled, these sort of like consumer staple type of companies, they are actually really suffering and underperforming because you see this this consumer pullback. And we can put C3 up on the screen, which is going to have a major impact as well. So we covered yesterday, the Trump administration was saying we're not going to pay any SNAP benefits. A judge came in and said you actually have to. You have to tap these emergency funds. So now they're saying they're going to pay half of the SNAP benefits for November. However, there continues to be, those funds haven't hit for people yet. Here we are November 4th, and there's no real telling when they will hit. So an Agriculture Department official who oversees the SNAP program said in a court filing that, quote, there are procedural difficulties that states will likely experience, which would affect November SNAP benefits reaching households in a timely manner and in the correctly reduced amounts. For some states, the required system changes that have to be implemented could take weeks or several months and could lead to payment errors and significant delays. So for the 43 million people who are on SNAP benefits, this is just an absolute, it's an absolute catastrophe. And of course it's going to have a ripple effect throughout the economy. And, some of the places that are going to be hit the hardest are actually stores in rural America where you have more impoverished populations and a lot of the revenue from the store comes from EBT, comes from the SNAP program. So, even though you've got this ruling and the Trump administration now saying, okay, we'll give you half, which is already, a 50% reduction is a massive, massive hit. No telling when they'll even get access to those funds either.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, well, this is where it comes down to cost. Let's say with Chipotle and generally. Like, I remember when it was $6 a bowl. This actually was not that long ago. And I used to eat Chipotle 5 days a week, literally, back in my early 20s. There was one right next to where I used to live. I was on name basis. Now, though, like, they had this recent advertisement, I'm not sure if you've seen. It's carne asada and red chimichurri. I was like, all right, gotta try it, okay? It's like catnip. Yeah. So if you look at the overall price, when I was done, keep in mind, we live in a high cost of living area, it was $22 with tax. I mean, look, again, maybe...
The red chimichurri, though, is good.
Listen, it's good. I loved it. I'm not going to say I didn't like it. Was it $22 good? I don't know. Again, maybe boomer brain, but that's one of those where, you know, I don't drink alcohol. That's kind of what I expect to pay if I go to like a mid-tier restaurant, right? Like, I want to be sitting getting some service, not literally something in a paper bag that's wrapped in foil. They're eating on your couch when you're watching TV. That's just, in my head, that should cost around $8 to $10. So $22, not happening anymore. And you just have to think about how, again, for young people, especially if you eat out a lot, of course, it's about convenience. And one of it is, it used to be so that it was a little bit more expensive to eat out, but not all that much more. And maybe you could justify the value in your time. Like I said, at $13 to $18 for a bowl, depending on like what you're getting in there, how is that possibly even worth it anymore? I mean, you have to cook at home.
But
like,
then
there's
you
no
can't
choice.
blame them either, because look at how expensive beef is.
Right, but exactly. So then you're like, okay, so I'm going to eat at home. It's like, oh no. Yeah, exactly. You're paying for carne asada there, or you can pay for it at Costco. You're paying a shit ton for it, basically no matter what. That is the part where, when you see how it pervades, you know, even influencer culture. I think I've talked about this, about those YouTube channels where it's like cook like your grandma from the Great Depression. Those channels saw a huge explosion over the last couple of years. That's part of why is home, you know, it's so exorbitantly expensive. As stuff that was once not even, I mean, would you call Chipotle luxury? Like, I wouldn't. It was $6. I even remember in New York, you would pay $7 or something like that. It just was not that expensive. It was, you know, even in Midtown, it was like $7.50, I'm pretty sure, if I recall. Now, I mean, what, $15 probably for what it is? That's a lot of money. And you have that for everything, because it's not just defense of Chipotle, it's all fast food.
And consider what the minimum wage is, right?
Yeah,
still
$7.25 an hour or something
yeah,
like that.
and I mean, even in states that have increased it, maybe they've upped it maybe to $15. So you're working an hour to get one Chipotle bowl.
I don't even know if it wouldn't buy you a drink. It definitely wouldn't. With tax, where I live, it would be about $15, I think.
And this is really the story of our economy. Put C4 up on the screen. This is the story and the reality of our economy today. So now the top 10% of income earners account for 50%. So half of all spending is being done by the top 10% of earners. And so you have this incredibly lopsided economy. And then, of course, what happens is all the incentive, like if you are a business wanting to make money, is to cater to the people who have the money. Who have money to spend. And so increasingly, you know, the economy becomes more and more tilted and lopsided towards catering to the affluent. There's a bunch of, let's go ahead and put, Kobayashi Letter did a long thread with a bunch of other indicators about the reality of the economy today. Let's go ahead and start these. They write, the elephant in the room, AI stocks are outperforming consumer stocks by 20% plus over the last 60 days. And as AI investment exceeds $1 trillion per year, car repossessions are at 2009 levels. There are two U.S. economies, rich versus poor, and AI is the lifeline of it all. And really think about that, because overwhelmingly the people who hold stocks are the wealthy. And so they're benefiting from this massive, you know, continued growth in the stock market. But if you're just a regular wage earner trying to make it, you are getting screwed. Let's put the next element up on the screen. So here are the sort of consumer-focused brands whose stock prices are suffering. They say that on the other side of the table is a more bleak picture as opposed to the AI stocks. Consumer-facing stocks are getting crushed. Latest earnings season only underscored that. Take a look at the year-to-date performance of these consumer stocks. General Mills and Kraft Heinz, which we mentioned before, are in a bear market. Put the next one up on the screen. The economy is particularly bad for Americans who are seeking entry-level jobs. The U.S. unemployment rate for youth graduates age 20 to 24, so people are, you know, just coming into the job market, has averaged 8.1% over the last 3 months. That's the highest in 4 years. This is up sharply from under 4% just 2 years ago when the AI boom began. So it certainly looks like AI adoption is starting to take a hit on the job market, especially with new college grads in particular, or new associate degree holders. And let's put this last one up on the screen as well. This is a look at auto repossessions. We are now at have seen a huge increase in just the past year, and vehicle seizures are at the highest level that we have seen since 2009. So you have a huge spike in 2009, Great Recession, then it declines, then it climbs back up and reaches a peak during the COVID era, which makes sense again when people are losing their jobs and out of work and struggling through COVID. Then it declines, and now we are back on the march up. So on the one hand, you have these, record earnings for NVIDIA and all of this, excitement about AI and these tech stocks that are just going up and up and up. And then the rest of the economy tells a very different story about what the reality is for people. And that's what I mentioned in our A Block, our election coverage. In Trump's first term at this point, people were happy with where the economy was. Some 60+% said the economy is good versus those saying it was poor. Now it's flipped. And it's 70+% who say that the economy is actually poor, and only maybe 25% that say it is doing well. So for people's own experience in their life, they are really feeling the pinch and feeling the pain in spite of what the top line on the stock market is doing.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.